Hi there! In this lesson, I'm going to show you a variety of vibrato techniques, or as we say in Sweden, vibrato technique. The techniques you'll learn are these: the side-to-side vibrato, the pull-down vibrato, the whole arm pull-down vibrato, the push-up vibrato, the bent notes vibrato, and the whammy bar vibrato. So all of these techniques, they have their use, and you should try to master all of them. Having a good vibrato technique is important because it's an essential part of having a good lead guitar sound. All the greats from Hendrix to B.B. King to Yngwie Malmsteen and Eric Clapton, they all have used vibrato techniques to define their sound. So there is no reason why you can't do the same. So let's get started. The first thing you have to realize is you are taking a note and you're bending it beyond the regular pitch. You are usually not going to the next note. Although you could if you have really big vibrato like that. But usually we just go out of pitch a little bit and then come back. So it's like a, like a waveform like this. We can think of it as a little snake going like this, right? And raising it up and releasing. So there are two different aspects of a vibrato that will define how you sound and how your vibrato is perceived. And that is how far you bend, how far out of pitch you go, and how quickly you do it. So as you probably know, some shredders, they do this. They like to often do a wide, slow vibrato. And if you do it on the B string, you might fret out. I can't even do a really slow vibrato because I tend to have a little bit of a quicker one. And then we have guys like B.B. King who have a fluttering type of vibrato, which is not so much pitch change, but it's a quick vibrato. And I think a lot of blues players have a short, quick vibrato like that. Often they push up with the finger. And I find personally that when I do the pushing up vibrato, the speed tends to be a little faster than when I'm pulling down. I think that's a fairly common thing. I think Buddy Guy has a pretty quick vibrato too. And I think he's pushing up a lot. So first of all, I just want to mention, of course, that the basic premise of the vibrato effect is that we hit a note and we bend it out of pitch and we come back to the original pitch again. If we play it really slowly, it will sound like that. And it doesn't sound pleasing at this really, really slow tempo. But as we start speeding it up a little bit and have an even vibrato applied, it sounds quite pleasing. And note here that I am not, after I bend it up, I'm not pushing back because the string wants to come back to its original position. So you bend it a little bit, you release some of that pressure from bending while the finger is still on top of the string, it goes back to its original position. So the only time I really do, I'm sort of just working on when I'm pulling down. Like work, relax, work, relax, work, relax, right? That's sort of the idea, but it happens quite quickly. And that is, of course, the same when you do the push-up method. You push up, that's work. You relax, and it comes down to its original position, and so on. And don't be afraid to shake your guitar a lot. That's just cool. If you get extra strings ringing a little bit, that's cool too. But you don't have to worry about the guitar going like this. It's normal, and that's not an issue at all. Just let your guitar go wherever it wants to go, as long as you can play a cool vibrato. And that is perfectly fine. So I'll be going through the A minor pentatonic scale in box 1, this good old. So let's start on the lowest note here. When I'm playing this note and applying a vibrato, my hand is doing a motion like this. I am not using my finger to go like this. And that's very important to realize, because if you try to do a vibrato with just having your hand locked in place and using your finger like this, it's a really crappy one. It's really hard to control, and it's hard to get it even. So I do not recommend you do that. Instead, you get your note that you want to play vibrato on, and then here is the anchor point right here on my hand. That's where everything is starting from there. So I pick the note, and then my hand is going like this, basically. But since it's touching the guitar neck here, I get a strong pivot point, so to speak. So it makes it quite easy to control the motion. And we can use that technique to play through the top 5 strings, because I use the same technique from low E to B string. It's only on the high E string where I switch to the other technique. And that is, of course, because I can't do the pulling down effect or technique anymore, because I'll get off the fretboard, right? I have no choice. I have to push the other way. Which means that a lot of guitar players like myself are better or more confident in the pulling down vibrato versus the pushing up, because we use this pulling down vibrato more. Unless you always play the high E string, you actually don't apply that effect that often. At least I don't. So I tend to go for the pull down as much as possible. So let's play through the A minor pentatonic, and I'll just give you some tips for each note. So the first one, I use my right hand as much as possible to mute strings that I don't want to sound. But I'm also using the left hand as much as possible. So when I'm using my index finger, it's usually this part of the finger is sort of rolled on over. So I'm touching strings below. And even if I'm touching and moving my hand, you still get a muting effect. You don't get a lot of noise. Right? And then I go to the next note, and now here you can use your pinky, or you can use your ring finger, and use the same effect. Now it feels a little different when you're not using the index finger, because that motion is now a little bit different because you're using a different finger. So it's the angle or the distance from this pivot to your pinky is a little different, but it's still the same technique. And you should always use fingers behind the one you are fretting. So if I'm using my pinky, I still have these 3 on top of that E string. And that is because that will help me get more strength and more control. So the more fingers you have behind, and that applies to bending as well, of course, the better it is, because you have more control, you're stronger. And the stronger you are, the easier you can control things. So that's the second note. I use the same technique. You know, and I'll talk a little bit later about how fast you should go and so on. But for now, just practice getting one note ringing and stay on it for a while. try and get an even motion with your hand, just going like this.